If someone had told me the city's marble queen would pause at a cracked stone bench, I would have kept my eyes on the pigeons. From the 42nd floor of Sterling Tech Tower, its glass spine piercing the Chicago skyline, Ava Sterling's corner office commanded a panorama from the Chicago River to Lake Michigan. At 34, she'd built the sort of empire most only imagine. The latest quarter showed revenues above $2 billion, and Forbes had just listed her among the most influential women in tech. The cost of that ascent, however, had been high. "Miss Sterling, your 3 p.m. is here," Paige announced over the intercom, her tone as crisp as the expectations Ava set for everyone. "Send him in," Ava replied, eyes still on the laptop where code and financial models shimmered. Preston Kingsley entered with the practiced ease of a man accustomed to getting his way. Heir to a real estate fortune and newly divorced from a senator's daughter, he was precisely the match Chicago's elite envisioned for someone of Ava's rank. "Ava," Preston said, flashing a polished smile, teeth paper white against his tan. "You look stunning as always." She lifted her gaze at last, green eyes cool and appraising. Preston was handsome in the way that money could buy, perfectly groomed, expensively dressed, and utterly predictable. Like all the others who had tried to court her over the years, Preston. "I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me, but I should be direct," Ava said, closing her laptop with a soft click. "I'm not interested in pursuing anything beyond a professional relationship." His smile faltered slightly. "Ava, we barely know each other. Perhaps if we could have dinner." "I don't date," she interrupted, standing and walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sprawled below her, millions of people living their small lives while she orchestrated moves that affected thousands of jobs and billions in market value. "I don't have time for romantic entanglements, and frankly, I don't see the point." Preston stood as well, his jaw tightening. "You can't build a life on spreadsheets and board meetings, Ava. Everyone needs companionship." "Do they?" She turned to face him, her expression unchanged. "I have everything I need. My company, my success, my independence. What could a relationship possibly add to that equation?" After Preston left, clearly frustrated and slightly humiliated, Ava returned to her desk. This was the 7th man in 3 months that her social circle had pushed toward her. Senators, sons, tech entrepreneurs, investment bankers, all cut from the same cloth, all expecting her to soften her edges and play the role of the accomplished woman who still needed a man to complete her. The thought disgusted her. As evening approached, the office gradually emptied. Ava remained as she always did, working until the cleaning crew arrived. It was past 10 when she finally gathered her things and headed for the elevator. Her driver waited outside in the black Mercedes. But tonight, something made her pause. "Take the evening off, Colin," she told him through the window. "I think I'll walk." The October air bit at her cheeks as she stepped onto the sidewalk. Chicago in autumn had always been her favorite. The way the city seemed to exhale after the oppressive heat of summer. The golden light that filtered through the changing leaves in Grant Park. The energy that crackled through the streets as people hurried past in their coats and scarves. She walked south through the loop, her heels clicking against the pavement in a steady rhythm. The streets were still busy despite the hour. This was the city that never slept after all. Yellow cabs honked their way through traffic. Street vendors called out to late-night commuters. And the neon signs of Times Square painted everything in electric blues and reds. But as she continued walking, the crowds thinned and the noise softened. She found herself in Millennium Park, where the farmers' market would set up in just a few hours, and where protesters often gathered to voice their causes. At this hour, though, the square was mostly empty, except for a few late-night stragglers and the homeless who had claimed benches for the night. It was then that she saw her, huddled on a bench near the subway entrance, was a young woman, maybe 25, wrapped in a threadbare blanket that had seen better days. Her dark hair fell in waves around her face, and even in sleep, there was something ethereal about her features. She clutched a worn backpack to her chest like a lifeline, and her clothes, though clean, were clearly second-hand. Ava stopped walking. In her world of boardrooms and penthouses, homelessness was a statistic, a social issue discussed in charity galas where wealthy donors wrote checks to ease their consciences. But seeing this girl, this young woman who couldn't be much younger than herself, sleeping rough in the heart of Chicago, struck something deep in Ava's chest. The temperature was dropping. The weather report had predicted frost by morning. Without fully understanding why, Ava approached the bench. The girl stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Up close, Ava could see that she was shivering despite the blanket. Her lips tinged with blue from the cold. "Excuse me," Ava said softly. The girl's eyes snapped open. Brown eyes, warm despite the circumstances, but alert with the weariness of someone who had learned to be cautious. She sat up quickly, clutching her backpack tighter. "I'm sorry," the girl said, her voice from sleep and cold. "I wasn't bothering anyone." "I'll move if no," Ava interrupted, surprised by the gentleness in her own voice. "You don't need to move. It's getting very cold. Do you have somewhere warm to go?" The girl studied Ava's face, taking in the expensive coat, the designer handbag, the obvious markers of wealth. Her expression became guarded. "I'm fine," she said, though her chattering teeth betrayed her words. "What's your name?" Ava asked, sitting down on the bench despite herself. The metal was freezing through her coat. The girl hesitated. Maya Quinn. "I'm Ava." She didn't give her last name. Something told her that would only make Maya more suspicious. "How long have you been out here?" Maya pulled the blanket tighter around herself. "A few weeks." "Look, I appreciate the concern, but I don't need charity. I'm just between places right now." There was pride in her voice, dignity despite her circumstances. Ava recognized it because she had built her own life on that same fierce independence. "I wasn't offering charity," Ava said. "I was offering help." "There's a difference." Maya's laugh was bitter. "Is there?" "In my experience, help always comes with strings attached." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the late-night traffic flow around the square. A police car cruised by slowly, and Maya tensed until it passed. "What happened?" Ava asked quietly. Maya was quiet for so long that Ava thought she wouldn't answer. Then in a voice barely above a whisper, she began to speak. "I was working at a small marketing firm in North Side. Nothing fancy, but I loved it. I was good at it, too. Creative campaigns, social media strategy. I had this tiny studio apartment in Wicker Park. Nothing special, but it was mine." She paused, her breath visible in the cold air. "The company got bought out by a bigger firm. They kept some people, let others go. I wasn't one of the lucky ones." "Couldn't you find another job?" "I tried, but the market's tough, and without a big-name company on my resume." Maya shrugged. "I burned through my savings pretty quickly. Rent in Chicago doesn't wait for you to get back on your feet. I've been staying in shelters when I can get a bed, but they're always full. Some nights, like tonight, it's just easier to find a quiet spot and wait for morning." Ava felt something crack inside her chest. Here was someone with talent and ambition, brought low by circumstances that could happen to anyone. How many times had she walked past people like Maya without a second thought? "There's a hotel across the street," Ava said suddenly. "The Sun Square. Let me get you a room for the night." Maya's eyes widened. "I can't accept that. I don't even know you. You know my name is Ava and I know yours is Maya. That's more than most people know about each other when they meet." Ava stood up, making a decision that surprised even her. "It's one night, Maya. No strings attached, just a warm bed and a hot shower." Maya stared at her for a long moment, and Ava could see the internal battle playing out across her features. Pride wearing with exhaustion, suspicion fighting with hope. "Why?" Maya asked finally. It was a fair question, and one Ava wasn't sure she could answer. Why was she standing in Millennium Park at nearly midnight, offering to pay for a hotel room for a stranger? Why did the sight of this girl sleeping rough affect her more than any board meeting? or business crisis ever had. Because, Ava said, surprising herself with the honesty, I think we all need help sometimes, and maybe tonight I'm in a position to give it. Maya studied her face in the glow of the street lights, searching for deception or ulterior motives. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her because she slowly nodded. Okay, she said quietly. One night, the lobby of the Millennium Park was a study in modern luxury. All sleek lines, ambient lighting, and the kind of understated elegance that whispered rather than shouted its expense. Maya followed Ava through the revolving doors. Her worn backpack and threadbare blanket are a stark contrast to the polished marble and designer furniture. Good evening, Ms. Sterling, the desk clerk said with a practiced smile of someone trained to recognize VIP guests. How may we assist you tonight? Maya's head snapped toward Ava. Sterling as in Sterling Tech. The name splashed across billboards citywide. The company with a CEO who lived on business magazine covers. I need a room for my friend, Ava said smoothly, either missing Maya's shock or choosing to ignore it. Something comfortable, ideally with a view. Of course, Miss Sterling. We have a deluxe king on the 15th floor overlooking the square. While the clerk keyed in the details, Maya caught Ava's arm. You're Ava Sterling? She whispered. Urgent. The Ava Sterling? Yes, Ava said simply. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? Maya started to answer, then shut her mouth. Would it have? She pictured the woman from the bench speaking with real concern, offering help without pity, kind without condescension. That woman felt true. The fact that she also happened to be one of Chicago's most powerful people was almost irrelevant. Almost. Here's your key card, the clerk said, passing over a small envelope. Room 1547. Elevators are just past the bar. Anything else this evening? Could you send up room service? Ava asked. Something warm soup. Some sandwiches. Certainly, Mrs. Sterling. They rode up in silence. Maya gripping the key card like it might vanish if she loosened her hold. The hallway plush with deep burgundy carpet. Artwork likely worth more than her last year's salary. Room 1547 opened onto calm luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows over Millennium Park. A king bed in crisp white. A marble bath with a rainfall shower. Maya stopped at the doorway, overwhelmed. I can't accept this, she said for the second time that night. You already did, Ava answered gently. It's paid for. You might as well use it. Maya crossed to the glass, looking down at the bench where she'd been trying to sleep 20 minutes earlier. It felt like a lifetime away. Why? She asked again, turning back. And please don't give me a generic I like to help people. You could cut a check to a shelter if that's all this was. Why me? Why tonight? Ava studied her in the warm lamplight, seeing the intelligence, the grit and that other thing Maya tried to hide but couldn't fully manage. The vulnerability. I don't know, Ava admitted at last. I've walked past that square hundreds of times. I've seen homeless people before. But tonight, seeing you there, she trailed off, struggling to find words for something she didn't fully understand herself. You looked like someone who didn't belong there, like you were just temporarily displaced, not permanently lost. Maybe I'm permanently lost, Maya said softly. I don't think so. Ava moved closer to the window to stand beside her. You said you're good at your job. You said you love it. That doesn't vanish because of one setback. A knock cut through the moment. Room service arrived with tomato soup, grilled cheese, and hot chocolate comfort food that felt almost absurd in such luxury. I should go, Ava said once the server left. Let you rest. Wait. Maya's voice stopped her at the door. Would you stay a little? Have some soup? It's too much for one person. Ava hesitated. Early meetings, reports to review, an investor call with Singapore all waiting. But there was something about Maya's ask neither needy nor desperate, just genuinely wanting company that made her nod. They settled on the couch by the window, sharing the simple meal and talking. Maya told Ava about a small Iowa town, about coming to Chicago with big plans, about a campaign she'd built for local businesses that actually moved the needle. And Ava found herself truly answering in a way she hadn't in years. She talked about Sterling Tech's early days, 18-hour stretches in a cramped near West Side office, sustained by coffee and sheer will. She admitted to the isolation of success, how climbing higher had narrowed her world. "Don't you have friends?" Maya asked. "Family. I have colleagues," Ava said. "People who want things. My parents died in a car accident when I was in college. No siblings." She lifted a shoulder. "As for friends, it's hard to tell who likes me for me and who's there for what I can do. That must be lonely." "I thought I preferred it," Ava said, surprised at herself. "Simple, clean, fewer complications." They talked until nearly 2 a.m., conversation easing along in a way that startled them both. When Ava finally rose, she was reluctant to break the spell. "Thank you," Maya said, walking her to the door. "Not just for the room for this. For treating me like a person, not a problem to solve. Thank you for letting me stay." Ava replied, "I can't remember the last time I spoke about anything other than quarterly projections or market share." They lingered at the threshold, neither ready to end the night. "What happens tomorrow?" Maya asked. "I don't know," Ava admitted. "But maybe we could find out together." Ava barely slept. In her penthouse, she stared at the ceiling, replaying every fragment of their conversation. The way Maya's eyes sparked when she described her work, the quiet dignity she carried through all of it, the unforced laugh that seemed to rise from someplace honest. By 6 a.m., Ava was dressed and sitting in her home office, but for the first time in years, focus refused to land. Her thoughts kept drifting to room 1547 at the W Union Millennium Park, wondering if Maya slept well in that soft bed, if she was warm enough, if she'd still be there by checkout. At 8:30, Ava did something that would have stunned anyone who knew her. She called Paige and canceled her morning meetings. "All of them, Miss Sterling?" Paige asked, surprise slipping through. In 5 years as her assistant, she'd never seen Ava cancel without a crisis. "All of them. Reschedule for this afternoon if possible. I have something I need to take care of." Ava arrived at the hotel just as Maya was checking out. She stood at the front desk in the same clothes from the night before, but she looked different somehow, refreshed, more confident. The hot shower and good night's sleep had restored some of the vitality that homelessness had worn away. "Ava," Maya said, turning as she approached. "I was just leaving." "Thank you again for have you had breakfast?" Ava interrupted. Maya shook her head. "I was going to grab something from a street vendor. There's a cafe around the corner. Good coffee, excellent pastries. Would you like to join me?" Maya studied her face, clearly trying to understand what was happening. "Don't you have to work? I mean, you're Ava Sterling. You probably have a dozen meetings this morning." "I canceled them." "You canceled meetings for me." "I canceled meetings for breakfast," Ava corrected, though they both knew it was the same thing. The cafe was a small, intimate place with exposed brick walls and the kind of atmosphere that encouraged lingering over coffee. They found a table by the window, and Ava watched Maya's face as she took her first sip of real coffee in weeks. "God, I missed this," Maya said, closing her eyes in appreciation. "You don't realize how much you take for granted until it's gone." "What will you do today?" Ava asked. "Look for work. There's a temp agency in the loop that sometimes has day jobs, data entry, filing, that kind of thing. It's not much, but it's something." Ava felt a familiar stirring, the same instinct that had built her company, the ability to see potential where others saw problems. "What if I told you I might have something better?" Maya's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" Sterling Tech is always looking for talented marketing people, especially people with fresh perspectives, creative approaches. "Ava, I can't." "Why not?" "Because it would be charity. Because you'd be hiring me out of pity." Not because I'm qualified. Ava leaned forward, her green eyes intense. Maya, I didn't build a $2 billion company by making decisions based on pity. If I'm offering you a job, it's because I think you can do it. You don't even know my work. Then show me. Maya stared at her for a long moment, then reached into her backpack and pulled out a battered laptop. This is all I have left, she said, opening it carefully. Most of my portfolio was on my work computer, but I managed to save some things. For the next hour, Maya walked Ava through campaigns she had created for small businesses. A local restaurant that had tripled its customer base after Maya redesigned their social media strategy. A boutique clothing store that had expanded to 3 locations after Maya created a viral marketing campaign. A nonprofit that had exceeded its fundraising goals by 200% after Maya revamped their donor outreach. The work was impressive, creative, strategic, and most importantly, effective. Ava found herself genuinely excited by Maya's ideas, by the fresh perspective she brought to problems that Ava's current team approached with predictable solutions. This is good work, Ava said finally. Really good. Good enough for Sterling Tech. Good enough for a trial period, 3 months, full salary and benefits. If it works out, we'll make it permanent. Maya's eyes filled with tears and she quickly wiped them away. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes, Maya whispered. Yes, absolutely. Yes. They spent the rest of the morning working out details. Ava arranged for Maya to stay at the hotel for another week while she found an apartment, advanced her enough money for a security deposit and first month's rent, and scheduled her to start work on Monday. There's just one thing, Ava said as they prepared to leave the cafe. This stays between us as far as anyone at the company knows. You're a new hire who came through normal channels. No one needs to know how we met. Maya nodded, understanding immediately. Of course. I wouldn't want anyone to think I got the job for any reason other than my qualifications. But as they walked back toward the hotel, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Ava's request than professional discretion. There was something in the way Ava had said it, a careful distance that hadn't been there during their conversation the night before. Ava, Maya said, stopping on the sidewalk. Are you having second thoughts about this? No, Ava replied quickly. Not about the job. You're qualified and we need someone with your skills. But Ava was quiet for a moment, watching the flow of pedestrians around them. But I think we should keep things professional from now on. Last night was unusual for me. I don't typically get personally involved with employees. Maya felt something sink in her chest, though she couldn't quite name what it was. Of course, you're right. Professional boundaries are important. Good, Ava said, but her voice lacked conviction. I'll have Paige send you all the details about your start date and orientation. They shook hands formally on the sidewalk, and Ava walked away without looking back. Maya watched her go, feeling like something precious had just slipped through her fingers. Though she couldn't understand why, neither of them realized that their attempt to maintain professional distance would prove to be impossible, or that the connection they had felt in that hotel room would only grow stronger, despite their best efforts to contain it. Maya's first week at Sterling Tech was a whirlwind of orientation sessions, team meetings, and getting acquainted with the company's massive scope of operations. The Sterling Tech building was a monument to innovation. 42 floors of cutting technology, brilliant minds, and the kind of resources that Maya had only dreamed of working with. Her new colleagues were welcoming, if somewhat curious, about the new hire who had seemingly appeared out of nowhere. Maya had been assigned to the digital marketing team under the supervision of Victor Hahn, a sharp-minded director who had been with the company for 6 years. Ava Sterling herself recommended you, Victor told Maya on her first day, leading her through the open-plan office space. That doesn't happen often. She usually leaves hiring decisions to department heads. Maya kept her expression neutral. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Well, let's see what you can do. We're launching a new product line next quarter. I-powered home automation systems. The target demographic is tech-savvy millennials and Gen Z consumers. Think you can help us reach them? Maya's eyes lit up. This was exactly the kind of challenge she thrived on. I'd love to try. Over the next few days, Maya threw herself into the project with the enthusiasm of someone who had been given a second chance at life. She researched market trends, analyzed competitor strategies, and began developing a comprehensive campaign that would position Sterling Tech's new products as not just innovative, but essential for the modern lifestyle. She barely saw Ava during those first days. Occasionally, she would catch a glimpse of her through the glass walls of the executive conference room, leading meetings with the intensity and focus that had made her legendary in the business world. Once their eyes met across the office floor, and Maya felt a jolt of recognition, a reminder of the connection they had shared in that hotel room. But Ava looked away quickly, and Maya forced herself to do the same. It was Friday afternoon when everything changed. Maya was working late, refining her presentation for the Monday morning team meeting when she heard the familiar click of heels on the marble floor. She looked up to see Ava approaching her desk, and her heart did something complicated in her chest. Working late, Ava observed, stopping beside Maya's workstation. I wanted to make sure my presentation was ready, Maya replied, trying to keep her voice professional. Victor said, you might be sitting in on Monday's meeting. I might be. Ava glanced at Maya's computer screen where a sleek presentation was taking shape. How are you settling in? Everyone's been very welcoming. The work is challenging, but in a good way. They stood in awkward silence for a moment, the easy conversation of their first meeting replaced by careful formality. Around them, the office was nearly empty, just a few dedicated employees burning the midnight oil. Maya, Ava said finally, her voice softer than it had been all week. Are you happy here? The question caught Maya off guard. Yes, of course. Why would you ask that? You seem different, more reserved than when we first met. Maya looked up at her, seeing something vulnerable in Ava's expression that reminded her of the woman who had sat beside her on that bench in Millennium Park. You asked me to keep things professional, Maya said quietly. I'm trying to respect that. I did, didn't I? Ava's smile was rueful. Sometimes I think I'm too good at building walls. Why did you really come down here tonight? Maya asked. Ava was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could see her internal struggle. The battle between the CEO who maintained careful control over every aspect of her life, and the woman who had impulsively offered help to a stranger. Because I missed talking to you, Ava admitted. Finally, these past few days, I found myself thinking about our conversation at the hotel. When was the last time you had a real conversation with someone? Not about work, not about business, just talking. Maya saved her work and closed her laptop. Want to get out of here? Where would we go? I know a place. 20 minutes later, they were walking through Grant Park as the sun set behind the Chicago skyline. Maya had suggested the park because it was neutral territory, not Ava's world of corporate power, not Maya's world of uncertainty, just a place where they could be two people talking. I used to come here when I first moved to Chicago, Maya said as they walked along the path beside the reservoir. When the city felt overwhelming, when I missed home, when I needed to remember why I came here in the first place. Why did you come here? Ava asked. Because I wanted to matter, Maya said simply. I wanted to create things that would make a difference, even if it was just helping a small business find its voice, or connecting people with something they needed. Chicago felt like the place where that was possible. And now, Maya was quiet for a moment, watching the joggers and dog walkers enjoying the evening. Now, I'm not sure. The past few weeks have made me question a lot of things. What success really means, what security looks like, how quickly everything you think you've built can disappear. They found a bench overlooking the water, and Ava sat down beside Maya, careful to maintain a respectable distance. I've been thinking about that, too, Ava said. Success? I mean, I've spent so many years focused on building the company, on proving myself, on winning. But winning what exactly? You've built something incredible, Maya said. Sterling Tech has changed how people interact with technology. You've created thousands of jobs, revolutionized entire industries. Have I though? Or have I just created a very expensive monument to my own ambition? Maya turned to look at her, surprised by the vulnerability in Ava's voice. What do you mean? I mean, what's the point of building an empire if you're going to rule it alone? Ava's laugh was bitter. I have everything I thought I wanted and I'm lonelier than I've ever been in my life. You don't have to be, Maya said softly. Don't I? Look at my life, Maya. Look at the choices I've made. I've systematically eliminated every possibility of genuine human connection in favor of professional achievement. I don't know how to be anything other than what I am. Maybe you don't have to be anything other than what you are, Maya said. Maybe you just have to let people see who that really is. They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell around them, the city lights beginning to twinkle in the distance. Maya found herself acutely aware of Ava beside her, the subtle scent of her perfume, the way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was thinking, the careful way she held herself even in this moment of relative vulnerability. Maya, Ava said finally, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me, okay? That night we met, when I saw you on that bench, what did you think of me? Maya considered the question carefully. I thought you were someone who was used to being in control, but who was genuinely concerned about a stranger. I thought you were lonely, even though you probably wouldn't admit it. And I thought you were beautiful. The last words slipped out before Maya could stop them, and she felt heat rise in her cheeks. But Ava didn't seem shocked or uncomfortable. Instead, she turned to face Maya fully for the first time since they had sat down. I thought you were beautiful, too, Ava said quietly, and brave and real in a way that I'd forgotten people could be. And that terrified me. Why? Because I've spent so many years convincing myself that I don't need anyone, that emotional attachments are weaknesses I can't afford. And then I met you, and suddenly all of that certainty felt like a lie I'd been telling myself. They were sitting closer now, though neither could say exactly when that had happened. Maya could see the flecks of gold in Ava's green eyes, could count the faint freckles across her nose that makeup usually concealed. Ava, Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know, Ava replied. I know this is complicated. I know there are a dozen reasons why this is a bad idea. But I can't stop thinking about you. I can't stop wondering what might happen if I stop being so afraid of letting someone in. The space between them seemed to shrink, and Maya felt her heart racing. This was dangerous territory, not just because Ava was her boss, but because Maya could feel herself falling for someone whose world was so different from her own, that they might as well be from different planets. What are you saying? Maya asked. I'm saying that maybe professional boundaries aren't the most important thing here. Maybe some things are worth the risk. Before Maya could respond, Ava's phone buzzed with an urgent message. She glanced at it and sighed. Crisis in Singapore, she said, the moment broken. I have to take a call. They walked back through the park in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. At the edge of Grant Park, where their paths would diverge, Ava to her penthouse, Maya to her small hotel room, they stopped. Maya, Ava said, would you like to have dinner tomorrow night somewhere quiet, away from the office? Maya's heart leaped, but she forced herself to think clearly. Are you sure that's wise? Probably not, Ava admitted. But I'm tired of making every decision based on what's wise. Sometimes you have to make decisions based on what feels right. Maya looked into Ava's eyes and saw hope there and fear and something that looked like the beginning of love. Yes, she said, I'd like that very much. Saturday evening found Maya standing in front of her hotel room mirror, trying on the third outfit in an hour. She had managed to find a simple black dress at a nearby boutique. Nothing too fancy, but elegant enough for dinner with Ava Sterling. The irony wasn't lost on her that she was using money Ava had given her to buy clothes for a date with Ava, Was it a date? Neither of them had used that word. But the careful way Ava had asked, the nervous energy Maya felt in her stomach, the way they had almost kissed in Grant Park, it felt like more than a business dinner. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ava. Car will pick you up at 7 o'clock. Looking forward to tonight. Maya smiled despite the nerves. Since joining Sterling Tech, she'd seen Ava in full CEO form commanding boardrooms, making calls that affected thousands, carrying authority so naturally that seasoned men deferred to her. But in that simple text, Maya glimpsed the woman from the bench in Millennium Park. The restaurant Ava chose was a small Italian spot in the village, intimate and far removed from the corporate dining rooms where she usually met clients. When Maya arrived, Ava was already at a corner table and she looked different, softer. A cream-colored sweater and dark jeans replaced her usual power suits. You look beautiful, Ava said as Maya sat. Something in her tone made Maya's pulse quicken. So do you, Maya answered and meant it. Without the armor, Ava seemed younger, more open, more human. They ordered wine and talked about anything but work. Maya's Iowa childhood, Ava's mid-years, favorite books and films, the places they hoped to see. Conversation moved with the same easy current as that first night at the hotel, and Maya felt herself settling into it. Can I ask you something? Maya said as they shared tiramisu. Anything. Why haven't you been in a serious relationship? You're successful, brilliant, beautiful. Surely you've had chances. Ava swirled her wine. Quiet for a beat. I have, she said at last. But I've never met anyone who made me willing to risk what I've built. Risk it how? Love makes you vulnerable, Ava said. It gives someone the power to hurt you, to distract you, to outrank your goals. I've watched too many brilliant people lose their focus after a breakup. She lifted her gaze to Maya's. And now, I'm starting to think invulnerable isn't the same as strong. The honesty of it landed between them, and something shifted in Maya's chest. This wasn't just attraction. This was Ava Sterling, one of the most powerful women in America, choosing vulnerability for the first time in years. Ava, Maya asked softly, what are we doing here? I don't know, Ava admitted. I've never been this far off the map. In business, I have a plan, a strategy, a clear route to the outcome. But this, she gestured between them, feels like stepping off a cliff and hoping I learn to fly on the way down. Maybe that's not a bad thing, Maya said. Maybe some things are worth the leap. They walked through the village after dinner. The October air crisp and clear. The streets were quieter here than in the Loop, lined with brownstones and small shops that gave the neighborhood a more intimate feel. They found themselves walking closer together, their hands occasionally brushing as they moved. Maya, Ava said as they paused at a corner, waiting for the light to change. I need you to know that if we do this, if we explore whatever this is between us, it's going to be complicated. I know. I mean, really complicated. The media attention, the speculation about whether you got your job because of our relationship, the pressure from the board if they find out their CEO is dating an employee. Are we dating? Maya asked, a small smile playing at her lips. Ava's cheeks flushed slightly. I'd like to be, if you're willing to deal with all the complications that come with it. Maya stopped walking and turned to face Ava fully. They were standing under a street light, and the warm glow made Ava's hair look like spun gold. Ava, 3 weeks ago, I was sleeping on a bench in Millennium Park. I had no job, no home, no prospects. You changed all of that. You gave me a chance when no one else would. And you did it because you saw something in me that I was starting to think didn't exist anymore. Maya, let me finish. Maya said gently. I'm not naive. I know this won't be easy. I know there will be people who assume I'm using you or that you're using me. I know that dating your boss is complicated under the best of circumstances. And these aren't exactly the best of circumstances. Then why? Because Maya said, stepping closer. In all of that complexity, there's something simple. I care about you. Not Ava Sterling, the CEO. Not the woman on the Forbes list. Not the person who can change my life with a phone call. I care about the woman who sat with me on a park bench and talked about loneliness. Who admitted she doesn't know how to let people in. Who's brave enough to risk everything she's built for the possibility of something real. Ava's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I care about you, too, she whispered. More than I thought I was capable of caring about anyone. The space between them disappeared. And when Ava kissed her, Maya felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. It was soft and tentative at first, then deeper as Maya responded, her hands finding their way to Ava's face, her fingers threading through that golden hair. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. So, Maya said, her voice slightly unsteady, I guess we're really doing this. I guess we are, Ava replied. And for the first time since Maya had known her, Ava Sterling looked genuinely happy. They spent the rest of the evening walking through the village, talking and laughing and stealing kisses in the shadows between streetlights. It felt like a beginning, like the first page of a story neither of them could have imagined writing. But as Maya lay in her hotel bed that night, replaying every moment of the evening, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenges were just beginning. Falling in love with Ava Sterling was the easy part. Staying in love with her, building something real and lasting despite all the obstacles in their path, that would require more courage than either of them had ever needed before. 3 months later, Maya had settled into a rhythm that felt almost normal. She had found a small but charming apartment in North Side. Her work at Sterling Tech was thriving, and her relationship with Ava had deepened into something that felt both exhilarating and terrifyingly real. They had been careful, perhaps too careful. Their relationship remained a secret from everyone at the office, conducted in stolen moments and private dinners, weekend getaways to Ava's house in the Hamptons, and quiet evenings in Maya's apartment, where Ava could shed the weight of her public persona and just be herself. Maya had never been happier, but she was beginning to understand the cost of loving someone who lived in the public eye. Every decision had to be calculated, every public appearance choreographed. They couldn't hold hands on the street, couldn't be seen together at restaurants where they might be recognized, couldn't even arrive at work at the same time for fear of speculation. It was a Tuesday morning in January when everything changed. Maya was in the office early preparing for a presentation to the executive team about the success of the AI home automation campaign. The product launch had exceeded all projections and Maya's marketing strategy had been a significant factor in its success. She was proud of the work, proud of what she had accomplished on her own merit. She was reviewing her slides when Victor Hahn appeared at her desk, his expression grim. Maya, we need to talk, he said. Conference room 3. Now Maya's stomach dropped. Victor's tone was all business, and not the good kind of business. She followed him to the small conference room, where she found 2 other people waiting. Diane Whitaker from Human Resources and Gabriel Cortez from Legal. Please sit down, Diane said, her voice carefully neutral. Maya sat, her mind racing through possibilities. Had she made a mistake on the campaign? Violated some company policy she wasn't aware of? The serious expressions around the table suggested something much worse than a minor infraction. Maya, Victor began, we've received some information that we need to discuss with you. Information about your relationship with Miss Sterling. Maya's blood turned to ice. I'm sorry. We know you're involved with Ava Sterling, Gabriel said bluntly. The question is whether you're going to be honest about it, or whether we're going to have to present you with the evidence we've already gathered. Maya's mind went blank. How could they know? She and Ava had been so careful, so discreet. They had never been photographed together, never been seen in public in any context that couldn't be explained as professional. I don't know what you're talking about, Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. Diane slid a manila folder across the table. These are photographs taken by a private investigator hired by Preston Kingsley. Apparently, Mr. Kingsley was quite upset about being rejected by Mrs. Sterling, and he wanted to know why. Maya opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were a dozen photographs. Her and Ava kissing outside the restaurant in the village. Walking hand in hand through Grant Park. Embracing on the steps of Ava's townhouse. The images were clear, unmistakable, and devastating. Mr. Kingsley approached the board of directors yesterday. Gabriel continued. He's threatening to go public with these photos unless certain demands are met. What kind of demands? Maya asked, though she was afraid she already knew. He wants Ms. Sterling to step down as CEO, Victor said. He claims that her judgment has been compromised by her relationship with you. That she's created a hostile work environment by showing favoritism to someone she's sleeping with. Maya felt sick. This was exactly what she had feared. Exactly why she had hesitated to get involved with Ava in the first place. Now her worst nightmare was coming true. And it wasn't just her career at stake. It was Ava's entire life's work. What happens now? Maya asked. That depends on you, Diane said. The board is meeting this afternoon to discuss the situation. If you resign voluntarily and agree to sign a non-disclosure agreement, they might be willing to handle this quietly. If you fight it, if I fight it, they'll destroy both of us. Maya finished. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, Gabriel said. They can't allow personal relationships to compromise the company's leadership. Maya closed the folder, her hands shaking. I need to talk to Ava. Miss Sterling is in meetings all morning. Victor said, the board meeting is at 2 o'clock. We need your decision by then. Maya left the conference room feeling like she was walking through a nightmare. She went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face, trying to think clearly. Everything she had worked for, everything she had built was about to crumble. But worse than that, she was about to destroy the woman she loved. She thought about Ava's face when she talked about Sterling Tech, the pride and passion that lit up her eyes when she discussed the company's innovations. Ava had built this empire from nothing, had sacrificed everything for it. Maya couldn't be the reason it was taken away from her. At noon, Maya made her decision. She typed out her resignation letter, citing personal reasons for her departure. She packed her few belongings from her desk, said goodbye to the colleagues who had become friends, and walked out of Sterling Tech for the last time. She was waiting in Ava's penthouse when Ava came home that evening, having used the key Ava had given her the month before. Ava found her sitting on the couch, still in her workload, staring out at the city lights. Maya, Ava said immediately, sensing something was wrong. What are you doing here? I thought we were meeting for dinner. Maya turned to face her, and Ava saw the tears in her eyes. The resignation letter on the coffee table. They know, Maya said simply. Ava's face went white. What do you mean they know? Maya told her everything. Preston Kingsley's investigation, the photographs, the ultimatum from the board. She watched Ava's expression change from shock to anger to something that looked like grief. So, you quit, Ava said when Maya finished. You just gave up. I protected you, Maya corrected. I protected what you've spent your entire life building without talking to me first, without giving me a choice in the matter. Maya stood up, moving to the window. What choice was there, Ava? Let them destroy your company. Let them force you out of the CEO position because of me. Maybe that would have been my choice to make, Ava said, her voice rising. Maybe I would have chosen you over the company. You don't mean that, don't I? Ava moved to stand beside her. Maya, Sterling Tech is just a company. It's successful. It's profitable. It's innovative. But at the end of the day, it's just a business. You're the first person in my entire adult life who's made me feel like there might be something more important than quarterly earnings and market share. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. I can't be the reason you lose everything you've worked for. And I can't let you sacrifice yourself to save something that doesn't matter as much as you do. They stood in silence for a long moment, both understanding that they had reached a crossroads that would define the rest of their lives. What do we do now? Maya asked. Ava took her hands, holding them tightly. We fight, she said. We go to the board meeting tomorrow and we tell them the truth. That yes, we're in a relationship, but that it hasn't compromised my judgment or your performance. That Preston Kingsley is a vindictive man who's trying to use our private lives to manipulate corporate governance. And if they don't listen, then we'll face whatever comes next together. Ava said, but I'm not going to let fear make this decision for us. I've spent too many years being afraid of taking risks, of letting people in, of choosing love over safety. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Maya looked into Ava's eyes and saw determination there and love and a courage that took her breath away. Are you sure? Maya asked. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Ava replied. The question is, are you willing to fight for us? Maya thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The night they met in Millennium Park, the conversations that had revealed their hearts to each other, the love that had grown between them despite all the obstacles. She thought about the woman who had seen her potential when she was at her lowest point, who had given her not just a job, but a chance to rebuild her life. Yes, Maya said, I'm willing to fight. The next morning, they stepped into the Sterling Tech boardroom together, fingers intertwined, ready to face whatever their love might cost. The board members stared, stunned to see Maya most had assumed her resignation would quietly end the scandal. Ladies and gentlemen, Ava said, settling into the chair at the head of the table with Maya beside her. We have a few matters to address. Beyond the windows on the 42nd floor, Chicago City unfurled below, millions of lives in motion. People weighing risk, choosing between safety and love. And in that room, two women who had found each other against all odds braced themselves to defend the right to love, openly, regardless of the price. The city that never slept was about to witness a love story poised to challenge everything its most powerful circles believed about business, relationships, and the courage required to choose love over fear. As Ava began, Maya squeezed her hand, certain that whatever followed, they would meet it together. Sometimes that's the only victory love needs.